Hey everybody, day 2 of our August reset, and we're taking week 1 to look at our digital devices and the role that they play in all of our lives. And this is really some discussions and some offshoots of a class that Trent taught a couple weeks ago called Digital Detox. So if you like this content, you can text digital to the number below. It's the Daily Dose number, and you can watch that whole class. It's a really good class. What are we talking about today?
So today we're talking about braking so that we can accelerate.
That sounds a little oxymoronic.
Yeah, the moronic side for me in particular on this one. But I love F1 racing, race car driving. You know, it was like as a kid, right? You always want to be like a race car driver. Yeah. And Mom, I never over accelerated in your car when I was 16. Just like almost every time, right? But, you know, as you learn and grow in some of these skills that are just for me, watching documentaries and all that, there's a key for drivers to be able to keep their wheels pointing down the track so that they can continue to accelerate. But to be able to do that, oftentimes they have to brake. The tendency for us is to be able to keep on going as far and as fast as we can into the turn, continuing to accelerate. But the reality is, if we continue to accelerate through some of these turns, we're just going to go off course.
That's interesting. Would it be fair to say that some of these drivers that are the fastest have mastered the art of slowing down?
Absolutely. Slowing down is so important, and braking is so important for our lives that God actually created it for us. So I love in Mark 2, the Pharisees were at Jesus, asking why his disciples were getting some grain from the fields. And then ultimately, he ends up saying this. He said, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. Now, Kirk, I always kind of got this mixed up in my head that for some reason, God needed me to honor him by resting on the Sabbath.
Yeah, but I mean, that's God himself rests, right? And so we're made in his image, and it's not.
Yeah, but there's do you think God actually needed to rest?
No, he didn't.
He did it to model it for us.
But your point being that we need to rest.
We need to rest.
We need to rest.
Jesus says we need to rest. So much so that he gave us a day for us to be able to say, hey, you should rest. And then he talks about having your fields rest. You go to Deuteronomy, and it gives a whole instruction for our fields, for farmers, that you need to give them a time for rest.
It's a business model. It's Chick-fil-A.
It's Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. Highest grossing fast food restaurant, right? And they rest on Sunday.
They work 6 days, and everybody works 7, and they make more money.
Yeah, that's crazy.
How does that work? Well, it's amazing what happens when we put spiritual principles to our lives. So what does this have to do with digitally, though, in this whole aspect? And there's this factor that our phones are constantly pinging us for our time and our attention. And unless we actually take a break and rest from them, that constantly being on call factor, then we're actually not resting in the least bit. I had a former student that was like kind of on a special ops team that was guarding Camp David, and they were on a nonstop feed of this threat during this particular time, and many of them couldn't handle it because they were never able to actually rest. They were always in this live fire mentality.
Wow.
And oftentimes that's what it is with our phones. We're constantly receiving all of these pings nonstop, saying that you need to be on today.
Yeah, that's how it feels.
Yeah. So it's like, so why is it that we can't just take a break from our phones? Why is it that we're constantly looking at it? And ultimately, it's this gamification. And this one author, which I talk about in the class, created these 8 core drivers. He didn't create them. He just recognized these are the things that motivate us to do what it is that we do.
So Kurt, they're like the things that get you hooked on your phone?
They get us hooked.
Okay.
Hooked on our phone. Yeah. So Kurt, let me just ask you this question. If I were to go, I was anticipating somebody coming to our house, and I went and checked a couple times, would that be strange?
I don't think so.
No. Now, if I went and checked out the window 20 times, would that be strange?
I would wonder who's coming to your house.
Yeah, and 50.
Yeah, that would be weird.
That would be weird.
It's the police. You did something wrong.
Yeah. So the reality is we check our phones 160 times a day.
Wow.
160 times. And actually statistics say that we touch our phones 2,617 times a day. You know those moments when it's just in your pocket and you just touch it?
Yeah.
You just touch it. You just touch it. It's like making sure it's there. Now, my wife would go crazy if I was like touching her 2,000 times a day. But somehow we do this because we are hooked on these devices. And so there's something about resting. And so I want to encourage all of you to take the digital detox class, get some information and motivation on why you should take a rest from your device. I'm not necessarily saying put it away, throw it in the trash, but finding times to be able to rest from all these notifications that we get. Because when we rest, when we break, we can accelerate in our life, in our spirituality, in our family, in our goals. Let's break so God can do a resting work in us. Have a great day.